Hey guys, here's your homework on graphing quadratic functions from standard form. Now for number one, we have that function, right? So now let's find the y-intercept, you guys. So recall, y-intercept is when x is equal to 0, right? So let's substitute 0 in for x. So f of 0 is equal to 0 squared plus 8 times 0 plus 12, which is simply 12. So remember your x value is 0, right? Because we just wrote that. And we have 12. Great. I'm just going to do my intervals by... Actually, I'll solve and then I'll start plotting. Okay, your roots. So another way of saying roots, you guys, is zeros or x-intercepts and etc. So you guys know to find your roots, y is equal to 0. So I'm going to set f of x equal to 0, x squared plus 8x plus 12. So now I'm going to factor two things that multiply 12 but add together gives you 8. That is 6 and 2. So 0 is going to equal to x plus 6 times x plus 2. So then when you guys solve, x plus 6 is equal to 0, x plus 2 is equal to 0. So we're going to get x is equal to negative 2 here. And we're going to get x is equal to negative 6 here. Now remember, y is equal to 0. So that is your values for y. And we found x is equal to negative 6 and x is equal to negative 2. Okay, vertex. Remember, your vertex is to find the x value of the vertex is negative b over 2a. So I'm going to label these. So x is going to equal to negative b over 2a, which is negative 8 over 2 times 1, which simplifies to negative 4. So the x value of my vertex is negative 4. Now to find the y, right, we just substitute negative 4 into the original equation. So f of negative 4 is equal to negative 4 squared plus 8 times negative 4 plus 12. And this is going to equal to 16 minus 32 plus 12, which simplifies to negative 4. So my vertex is going to be negative 4, negative 4. Okay, so I'll min or max. Well, you guys, you can determine that from the concavity. So remember, a is equal to 1, right? You know 1 is greater than 0, so that means it's going to open up. So I'm going to write it down here, opens up. And if it opens up, you guys, right, you're going to get a happy face, which means it's going to be a minimum. Axis of symmetry, remember you guys, axis of symmetry is the x value of your vertex, which is negative 4. So x is going to equal to negative 4. Now, before we begin domain and range, let's graph this. So I'm going to make these intervals of 2. And I'm just going to make these intervals of 1. Okay, so 0, 12 is my y-intercept, right? So right there. Negative 6, 0, it's right here. Negative 2, 0 is right there. And my vertex is negative 4, negative 4. So I don't want to intersect over there, but it's going to look like that, you guys. Axis of symmetry, right on x is equal to negative 4. Okay, pretty good. Now domain and range. So domain, how far left does this graph go? It goes negative infinity to the left, right? How far left? It goes negative infinity to the left. How far right does it go? All the way to infinity. Range. What is the lowest value? What's the lowest value? Well, you guys know your vertex is -4, -4. So the lowest value is the y value. So -4 to how high this graph goes. And how high it goes all the way to infinity. So there's your guys' first graph. Alright, number 2. Y-intercept, you know x is equal to 0. So f of 0 is equal to -0 squared plus 6 times 0 plus 7, which is simply 7. So your x value is 0, right? And your y value is 7. Great. Roots. Now remember, this is where your guys' y is equal to 0. And remember, roots is the same thing as x-intercept, which is the same thing as saying solving for your zeros. So we're going to set f of x equal to 0, and we're going to solve for this. Now, notice there's a negative sign, you guys, so I'm going to pull a negative sign out from the whole equation. So we're going to have x squared minus 6x minus 7. Factored out a -1. So now you guys, factoring. So we're going to get two things that multiply to -7, but add together gives you -6. That's -7 and 1. So 0 is going to equal to negative x minus 7 and x plus 1. Now you solve, so x minus 7 is going to equal to 0, or x plus 1 is going to equal to 0. And you guys know x is going to equal to 7, or x is going to equal to -1. I'm going to move this over a tad bit. Alright, so remember, you already know your y values are 0, right? Because y is equal to 0. And then we just solved that x is equal to -1 and x is equal to 7. Okay, your vertex, right? Your x value of your vertex, you guys, is -b over 2a. So your a is -1, your b is 6, and your c is 7. So -b over 2a, that's going to be -6 over 2 times -1, which is -6 over -2, which is 3. So our x value for the vertex is 3. Now to find your y value, right, you plug it into the original equation. So f of 3 is equal to -3 squared plus 6 times 3 plus 7. And that's going to give you guys -9 plus 18 plus 7, which is 16. So it's going to be 3, 16 is your vertex. Now let's just go to concavity, because that you pretty much know if it's a min or max based off the concavity. So -1 is less than 0. And you guys know if your a value is less than 0, that means it concaves down, which means you're going to get a sad face, right? And if you get a sad face, notice you guys will have a maximum. Okay, axis symmetry. You guys remember axis symmetry is the x value of your vertex, and it's a vertical line, so its x is equal to 3. So we have all our components, so let's graph this. So I'm just going to do these by intervals of 2 again. So we got 0, 7, which is right here for the y-intercept. -1, 0. I can do these by ones. So -1, 0 is there. 7, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. It's right there. And 3, 16. So here's 3, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 16. It's up there. And there's your guys' graph. And then your guys' axis symmetry was at x is equal to 3. So right there. Great. Now domain and range, right? Domain, how far left is this graph going? Negative infinity. How far right? Positive infinity. Okay, range. What is the lowest this graph is going? It's going negative infinity downward. What's the highest point? Well, your vertex, you guys, is 3, 16, right? So the highest point is 16, bracket. So that's number 2. Number 3. So remember y-intercepts, you guys, is when x is equal to 0. So let's substitute 0 in. So we're going to get 2, 0 squared, plus 4 times 0 minus 6. And that's going to just equal negative 6, you guys. So your x value is 0, right? And your y value that we just found was negative 6. Okay, roots. This is when your guys' y is equal to 0. Another word for roots is x-intercept or zeros. So let's substitute 0 for f of x because that's the same thing as y. And let's solve. So I'm going to factor out the 2 from each one to get x squared plus 2x minus 3. And now let's factor. Negative 3 and 2, right? Two things that multiply negative 3 but add together gives you 2. That is 3 and negative 1. So 0 is equal to 2 times x plus 3, x minus 1. So now solve for our zeros, right? So x plus 3 is going to equal to 0, or x minus 1 is going to equal to 0. So x is going to equal to negative 3, or x is going to equal to 1. So remember, y is already equal to 0, right? We declared that in the very beginning, and we solve for x is negative 3 right there, and x is 1 right there. Okay, vertex. Remember, your x value is negative b over 2a, right? So let's label a is equal to 2, b is equal to 4, c is equal to negative 6. So negative b is negative 4 all over 2a, which is 2 times 2. That's going to simplify to negative 1, you guys. So your vertex is negative 1. Now for your guys' y-coordinate, you substitute negative 1 into the original equation to solve for your guys' y value. So f of negative 1 is equal to 2 negative 1 squared plus 4 times negative 1 minus 6. You guys simplify that, and that's going to be 2 minus 4 minus 6, which is negative 8. So negative 1 comma negative 8 is our vertex. Okay, concavity. So you guys know your a value is 2, and that's greater than 0, right? So that opens up, which means you're going to get a happy face, right? And that is where you're going to get a minimum. So it is going to be a minimum. And your guys' axis of symmetry, it is the x-coordinate of your vertex. And it's a vertical line, so x equals negative 1. So let's start to plot this. So 0 comma negative 6, I think I could do from ones from here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So 0 comma negative 6 there. Negative 3 comma 0, 1, 2, 3. And 1 comma 0. My vertex is negative 1 comma negative 8. So 1 to the left, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And there's my graph, you guys. Axis of symmetry is at negative 1. Alright, great. Now, domain. How far left is this graph going? It's going forever to the left, negative infinity. How far right? Positive infinity. Range. What is the lowest point? You guys know your vertex is negative 1 comma negative 8. So the lowest point is at negative 8. How high is the graph going? Positive infinity. Last one. Okay, so for this one, for y-intercept, you guys, you know x is equal to 0, right? So let's substitute in that. F of 0 is going to equal to negative 0 squared minus 2 times 0 plus 8, which is simply 8. So you know your x value is 0, right? And our y value we just found was 8. Now for roots, remember roots is the same thing as x-intercept, which is the same thing as zeros. So all of them are the same. And you know your roots, you guys, is y is equal to 0. So let's substitute f of x for 0, and then let's solve. I'm going to factor out a negative 1 from each. X squared plus 2x minus 8. Factor. Up top is negative 8, down low is 2. Two things that multiply to negative 8, but added together gives you 2. That is 6, and nope. That is 4 and negative 2. So 0 equals negative 1 times x plus 4, x minus 2, which means x is going to equal to negative 4, or x is going to equal to 2. So y is equal to 0, because we declared that at the very beginning. And x is negative 4, and x was also equal to 2. Okay, vertex. Remember your guys' vertex is negative b over 2a. So let's label a is negative 1, b is negative 2, and c is 8. So negative of negative 2, right? 2 times negative 1. So we're going to get negative times negative 2 is 2. 2 times negative 1 is negative 2. So our x value is negative 1. Now let's substitute negative 1 into the original so that we find our y value. Negative of negative 1 squared minus 2 times negative 1 plus 8. That's going to be negative 1 plus 2 plus 8. So that's going to be 9. So we got negative 1 comma 9. Okay, so to find min or max, let's look at our concavity. So we know a is equal to negative 1, and you guys know negative 1 is less than 0, which means it opens down, which means it's going to be a sad face. So if you have a sad face, that means you're going to have a maximum. And axis symmetry, remember you guys, you look at the x value of the vertex, which is negative 1. So x is going to equal to negative 1. Alright, let's graph everything. 0, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Now go by 2's. 0, 8. So this is by 2's, you guys. Negative 4, 0. I'll just go by 1's on the x-axis. Negative 4, 0 is there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And 2, 0 is right here. Okay, graphing the vertex. Negative 1, 9. Negative 1, 9 is right there. And let's graph this. I'm trying to get it to match up. There we go. And then you guys know your axis symmetry is on x is equal to negative 1. Okay. Domain. How far left is this graph going? Negative infinity. How far right? It is going positive infinity. Okay, range. What is the lowest it is going? It's going negative infinity. What's the highest point? Your vertex was negative 1, 9. And 9 is the highest point bracket. So hopefully this helps you guys out, and good luck, okay? Peace.